Welcome to this special holiday edition of CoinDesk TV. 2021 was the year of non-fungible tokens. One of the biggest crypto and mainstream stories of the year was the $69 million sale of Beeple's Everydays, the first 5,000 days NFT at Christie's last March. We later learned that the pseudonymous buyer of the digital artwork was Metakovan, an Indian man who eventually revealed himself to be Vignesh Sudaresan. Together with his friend Anand Venkateswaran, also known as Twobadour, they manage crypto fund Metaverse. And earlier I had a chance to speak to both of them about their blockbuster purchase and vision for the future. Have a listen.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
You bought Beeple's 5,000 days NFT for 44,000 ETH. And at the time, everyone said, oh, that's worth about $69 million. Now it's gone way beyond that.
I never thought about it like that. Okay.
So was this a good investment? Or maybe you should just hold on to your ETH? Or tell me a bit about that decision making.
I think money in general and how we look at these things, you have to spend money, right? Like that's like saying, yeah, definitely if you hold a lot of gold, if you hold a lot of Bitcoin, you can just sit on it and you'll have more money. But at some point, you want to do something with it, right? So I think if there's an opportunity to make a lot of impact, I think using that money for that moment was a great thing because, the world has changed and for the good, I hope, not just as an investment for myself, but, it's been able to bring in so many artists into the crypto space, and I'm just part of the crypto movement, right? Like I'm one guy part of this crypto movement, and I feel like having all these artists now inside crypto is so exciting. So I think it's very, very worth it.
So you're not doing it for the money; you're doing it for another purpose, another reason. What is that?
You want to go?
Yeah, sure. Fine.
Yeah. But I would like to say it's saying that it's not for the money seems like
it's
okay, altruistic. It's not like that. I think it's for the long term, right?
It's a long-term game, long-term investment.
Definitely, because it's a changing industry, right? Like the same way crypto, like decentralized, how we think about money transfers, right? Like I think NFTs really disrupt the traditional art world and how cultural hegemony is established. So it's a long game, right? Like it's a change in the world. I do believe that culture has the power to change the order of reality, right? And so I don't know how that can be done, but I think it will be done.
Okay, same question. Do you think investing in these NFTs are a good investment long term versus just holding on to your ETH?
That's the thing, right? The investment is not in that specific asset. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck when they look at these things. A friend of mine, Andrew Steinwald, once said, a rising tide lifts all boats. So what we found fascinating, with every NFT that we acquired or engaged with, are the network effects, the ripple effects that it has had on the ecosystem. Those are fascinating, and those naturally have a lot of an impact on how the ecosystem reacts, on how market dynamics play out. So instead of looking at one particular asset, because there's hardly any historic data in the NFT space to make any sort of intelligent predictions about markets or prices or anything of that sort. So I think this is the perfect time to observe and sort of study the ecosystem itself. And inflection points like the Beeple incident, as we call it, or other experiments, or Dreamverse now, which is a physical experiment in how you can experience NFTs, right? And not just acquire them or hold them or think about them as assets. So to expand our understanding of the space is the real experiment.
Okay, so of all the things in this space, and there's so much to choose from, DeFi, NFTs, other coins, parachains, smart contract platforms, which you've already gone into, obviously. Why NFTs? And yeah.
May I? NFTs. The thing is, I think this question is sort of close to my heart because it also reflects my journey and the journey of a lot of people in crypto itself. Now, Metakovan and I met in 2013, and he discovered Bitcoin in 2013, and very generously told me all about it. But it flew over my head. I couldn't engage with it effectively. And in one sense, my story is like a series of missed opportunities in crypto, because I didn't land until 2017, and I didn't find my groove until 2020. Because unless you're a hardcore coder or an expert in playing with financial instruments, crypto didn't really have a space for you, right? You know, creators, artists, communicators, and a lot of these other functions had no primary role to play, and NFTs changed that, which is why I think they're fascinating. An analogy I'd use is, crypto is like, without NFTs, is like looking at an internal combustion engine. So to somebody that doesn't know it or has not built it, it looks like a hunk of metal. But put it inside a car, and you know that it's got potential. You know that it moves, you know that it looks good, it's more visible. So that's what makes NFTs, the vehicle for all of the innovations in crypto.
You connected it with more, but you have a background in coding, and you got into Bitcoin early, you understood it early, but now you're into NFTs, and depending who you talk to, if you're talking about Bitcoin maximalists, I mean, that's a big no-no, but you grasped onto NFTs as well, so tell me why.
I would also like to say, I'm into, parachains, I'm into DeFi, I'm into every technology like that's part of the crypto network now, right? So it's amazing, exciting to see all this innovation happening. But for me, NFTs is a place of impact, right? And what really excites me is, crypto space has a basic barrier to entry. We say Bitcoin is fair, like every crypto network is fair, but the fairness is very questionable because there is a barrier to entry, right? Like you need to know technology, as he was noting, right? Like maybe technologists do better with Bitcoin, and native English speakers do better with crypto usually. So when NFTs come up, I feel like it's for everyone, right? And cultures from different parts of the world, they all have their native digital exports and cultural export that can now be done from the place they are into the global economy, right? And so that's huge, and I think that's going to economically be impactful in a lot of places, and that's what we are just beginning to see.
So you're 100% in NFTs, probably the most prolific investors in the NFT space with the Beeple purchase at Christie's. What have you done with that purchase since then?
Sure. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, we get that asked a lot, and since March until Dreamverse, we've been thinking very hard about how to place a historic piece of this sort. It's practically been, it's like it's resting in our garage against a rusty old bike or something. So I think in our experiments and in the way we think about experiencing NFTs, now we've sort of understood that it's very interesting to meld the virtual with the physical. So for the first time at Dreamverse, the Beeple piece was showcased, on 30-foot screens as a spectacle. I think that's one part of it. How we want to take that forward is also by building a bespoke virtual space with excellent architects from New York. They're called Holly 13 and founded by Eric and Joshua Ramos, who's currently designing the Perelman Performing Arts Center at the World Trade Center. So they've redefined how you look at space in the metaverse instead of just making digitized copies of buildings in the physical world to, looking at how you can infuse the physics and the mechanics of the metaverse into a structure like that, and that will become the permanent address for the Beeple piece.
In the metaverse.
In the metaverse.
Okay, and so an example of that is you have displayed Beeple's work in New York at the during NFT NYC, and so tell me a bit about what we saw then.
Sure. So Dreamverse was the event we put together, and I think it's the first of many to come, right? Like when we bought Beeple, one thing we said was we wanted to understand how we would use this attention, right? Like there was now like people looking at us and as wondering which path do we go, right? And one thing that's always stayed with me close to my heart is the fact that we are able to throw that light onto so many other artists, either who are OGs from the crypto space, right? Like they've been in the crypto space before NFTs were cool, right? Great artists, right? Like and also artists from different parts of the world who are now, have made their first Bitcoin, they've made their first Ethereum thanks to crypto, right? All these artists, we're able to bring them in one space, and we're able to create an experience around these NFTs, VR experiences, AR experiences, a good music, with good music, right? And all together, I think what we are trying to enable is a hotbed for collaboration, friendships, and we don't know what's going to come out of it, right? Like that's where I think I believe in serendipity, and now I think we are just increasing entropy and celebrating serendipity as we go ahead.
Well, that's what I love about the NFT space is the community and the closeness that folks have with one another. And I'm wondering, when you are investing in the space, and you're more the curator, right, Twobadour, what are you looking for? Like, what is your investment thesis? Because there's a whole lot of things. If you want to make money, there are those collectibles. You could get the Ether Rock, you could get the Bored Ape, and that could fetch you a lot of money down the line, and it has for several folks. But is that what you're looking for? But no, it doesn't seem that way.
It's not just NFTs, right? It's also NFT-based enterprises that we try and partner with and invest in. What Metakovan established very early on and very firmly is that he removed the immediate, the necessity to look at an immediate financial upside to anything that we do. Like the idea is to play the long game, whether you're looking at an NFT or whether you're investing in an NFT-based company. So which is why when it comes to NFTs, I've had the privilege of looking at it from an emotional perspective and to look at the cultural and historic significance of a piece, whether it is the Beeple piece or First Supper or whether it is a rare Pepe, for instance. All of these are historically and culturally very significant, and we are curious to see how the network effect of those NFTs unfold. So that's one part of it. When it comes to investing in enterprises, obviously all of the usual checks and balances aside, I think it makes sense to see if the vacuum that they fill, the solution that they provide, is for a problem that's very obvious today, or is it something that will unfold over a period of time? That's fascinating. Like if the solution in front of you, the enterprise, has a product that fits in exactly into today's slot, it's not very interesting. It means it can't scale very well or adapt itself to a changing environment. But if a part of it, even a large part of it sometimes, is ambiguous, we find that fascinating.
Okay. Are you the owner of the rare Pepe or an Ether Rock or one of the, yeah. I would say they're one of the social status kind of NFTs. Because it's like the Lamborghini of the crypto space. You hold it, you flash it, and everyone, oh.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, fortunately. It's all in the wallet, and people can look at it, so we don't have to flash it. But yeah, we are proud to own the Satoshi Rare Pepe from a Series 1.
So what are your, I guess, top investments aside from the Beeple investment?
I wouldn't call them investments. The top, or the NFTs that we hold most dear would be First Supper, definitely.
First Supper, yeah.
Would be,
it was the first crypto-native piece,
yeah.
Meaning, it's an asynchronous, async art piece where, there are layers which are owned by many people. So it's one piece when you look at it, but that piece can change with 20 people controlling different layers in the piece, right? And that was the first of that kind.
So you're looking for historical long-term significance versus short-term gain or anything.
Definitely. And also, like when we look at, say, PFP projects, all these things that are, been trending, etc. What I think about is, is it increasing the number of people that can be part of the industry, right? And like we can always say, if you have money, invest in crypto. But I don't believe in that. I think everyone should have the opportunity to earn crypto, right? And that's how we came into the industry, right? Like if I had to put money and then come into the industry, it would have been really hard for me. I think I wish the same for everyone, right? And if there are things which we support are places where, you know, people can come and they'll be able to earn their first crypto in some way, right? That's why I like NFT art too, because it's like artists creating a currency out of their dreams, right? And that's powerful.
Where do you think we are in the present moment in terms of the metaverse, the NFT world, if you will, and what you hope to see it become?
I think metaverse is definitely not one app or one company or any of this, right? Like the universe, there are many galaxies, many planets, right? And what I want to see happen is a place for everyone, right? And it's a very, you know, sometimes it's very ideal to say that, but I think if the metaverse, the crypto cannot have a place for everyone, then the crypto movement has failed, right? So now we have to figure out, you know, maybe 2% of the population of the world has crypto now, right? Like, what about the rest? We cannot go into a world where it's like, you know, most people who have crypto are like the 1% of the world, and then everyone else is now working in that economy, right? So something is going to change. I think that's where metaverse is interesting. So the combination of DAOs, the visual metaverse, and NFTs enabling cultural exports, I think there'll be so many spaces where you're able to experience different cultures on the internet. And all these, like, as opposed to something like, say, Facebook or a corporation would do when it thinks about the metaverse. I think what we are creating are like public parks instead of private parks or, you know, private businesses. So public parks are not meant for profit, right? Like, say, take Central Park, for example. If you want to financialize this, someone is going to build really tall buildings there, right? Like, but someone has to resist that temptation, right? And I think the open metaverse has the capability to do that. So I think it'll be the public park of the internet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But where do you see us now versus what you hope to see tomorrow?
It's still fragmented, isn't it? But what I love about what I see currently is that we have established beyond a doubt the power of communities. You know, whether the purpose of those communities, those DAOs, is simplistic as, you know, trying to trade in NFTs, or is it like to flex, or is it to simply go and party? There is some sort of a power in people trying to hold on to a virtual identity and be part of a community. I'm very curious to see how that becomes a sort of a cohesive force instead of, you know, distributing.
Yeah, it's like when something starts, it feels inclusive, but we have to figure out whether it's exclusive or inclusive only over time.
Well, I actually find it very exclusive at times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think,
and intimidating for people who aren't familiar with the technology or have cryptocurrencies.
And I think if it's not inclusive, if it does not become more and more inclusive, it's going to be hard, right? So I think that's the change which might happen, because now we have NFTs and artists are part of the industry, and they're not just selling NFT art. What they're doing is they're asking these questions, like, you know, who owns this land, right? Like, okay, and how was this distributed, right? So these questions, I think, are going to change the way we have approached virtual world so far, and they know the future. They, like, artists, I believe, are very conscious of our human condition, and once they are in, the thesis that they can present and the world they can create will be awesome. So that's what we are going to see in the future.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about how you got into all this, maybe a bit of your origin stories. And I believe you were the one who got Bitcoin quite early. You're a coder. And so tell me a bit about that journey.
So I started on Bitcoin Talk forums. You know, I was back in 2013 coding and doing stuff on Python on my own. And then I discovered Bitcoin, right? Like, and it's amazing because I was like, wow, you move money without any intermediaries, right? Like, and back then there was no fee on the Bitcoin network, you know, you could mine it also. But I didn't get to do that, and I didn't have any money to invest in it. So so I started by being a middleman, like organizing trades between two people, right? And that's how I made my first, fraction of a Bitcoin. And, like my journey has never stopped from there. I've totally been invested in the space since 2013.
Yeah.
Built a few companies now, a Bitcoin ATM company.
You're also in the initial crowd sale of Ethereum.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's because of my, because I was part of this knowledge network, and I knew Anthony D'Airio, who's a founder of Ethereum too, right?
He's
It's a co-founder.
Of Ethereum,
yeah. So like he was the first customer to have bought our Bitcoin ATM, and so that's nice. Like to look back 8 years ago, like it's really nice that.
Right. So you are the crypto billionaire among the Metaverse team. So this is the guy, and your friends. So how did you get into crypto as well?
Kicking and screaming, I suppose.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I was a journalist for about 8 years. In print, I used to cover health and crime. Pretty symbiotic, if you come to think about it. Then I was at a news desk in a major broadcast network. Then I was in print for a while, online journalism. I dabbled in advertising. I wrote about financial technology, supply chain finance. The more I learned about money, the more politically aware I became, crypto started to make a lot of sense. And it was in 2017 that we began to work together again in DeFi for a bit. But like I said a little while ago, I found my groove in the NFT space. That was truly transformative for me.
Mm-hmm. Talking about 2021, what did 2021 mean for you? What changed in the industry? And then I also want to look at 2022 and what you foresee to come. So let's start with you, Metakovan.
2021, I think there's a bunch of new people. Now, right when we were at NFT NYC, I was like, I don't recognize any of these people, right? And that's great because, suddenly we are, crypto is in the attention of a lot of people. Definitely crypto is not easy to, grasp and there are birds and paper, right? Like, so only when the wind stops, which one is the real bird. So crypto is hard, but I'm so excited to see so many people just come in, right?
Yeah.
And especially a lot of artists, right? And people from different cultures come in. So that's what is exciting. And I think into 2022, what's going to happen is, we already have, the parachain world, the multi-chain world, which I think of, in my visual, it's like, there's New York City and there's Brooklyn, like all these places people move to because they cannot really move into New York already, right? So there are going to be stories where, people moved into, say, a parachain in Polkadot first, and then they made some money, and then they could cross the bridge into Ethereum. Those stories are going to be really powerful in the future.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Well, I totally relate because I've spent some time in the metaverse. I've looked around the gaming discords, but I'm still a little disassociated from the worlds because, it's still virtual. But it's not until I meet people in person and I see the NFT folks in real time that I feel a real connection and how big and passionate this movement is. But Twobadour, maybe I can ask you, what changed for you in 2020? What did 2021 mean for you? What do you foresee happening in 2022?
I think our point of view shifted from sort of I suppose in a way, an insular, inward-looking thing to being hyper-aware of our place in the NFT space. A sense of responsibility, not just to the way we act or react, but also every aspect of what we do as Metaverse, whether it is, acquiring an NFT or producing one or supporting a kind of art or work or a project. And that has been significant, and it's been an interesting and very introspective time for us, and for me in particular as well, 2021.
All right, excellent. And with Meta, formerly Facebook, getting into the whole metaverse NFT world,
the inevitable
is
question.
that a good thing, or could that be a threat to the decentralized communities that are developing right now?
I don't know. I think
I can take it.
Quite honestly, there is, yeah, I'll hand back. Quite honestly, it's not even a real comparison because of the scale and spread of Facebook already. I don't think it's practical to look at it that way. Decentralization and the people that are aware of it are decentralized essentially. There's no risk or threat of them suddenly feeling, wow, I think a centralized system is best, let me hop over. And people in a centralized system will always love the ease of use that happens. I think it's a slow shift over time. It's not a threat or something good that's happening. It's just the spread of technology, as it always has been, which is uncontrolled and impulsive and propelled by culture, like the NFT space itself.
Like decentralization meta, right? Like it's not going to be a problem because I believe that people are demanding more from these things, right? Like who owns the data? Like why am I giving all my rights to you, right? Like that's a fundamental question. And because the metaverse is so different in that regard when it comes to who owns the information. We are talking about rights all the time. We are giving back to everyone, right? So that ethos is what would be the threat to meta, right? Because either they have to change or they will be irrelevant.
All right, that was Vignesh Sudarasan, aka Metakovan, and Anand Venkateswaran, also known as Twobadour, crypto investors at Metaverse. That's it for this special holiday edition of CoinDesk TV. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.